What's up, you guys? So, the first thing I want to say is that if you happen to hear some noise, it's because today is the day that my apartment site does some landscaping, and of course, this is the only time of the day that I'll be able to stream. So, I just wanted to get this out of the way before I get ready to go to work and just get off like at nighttime. So, when I woke up this morning, I remembered randomly about the most pathetic thing that I thought I was being exposed to in school. And the most pathetic thing that I felt I was being exposed to in school was that a teacher of mine mentioned that they were being discouraged from making corrections to papers, or in other words, grading papers, using red ink because apparently it really affects a student's psychology. It's a color that's negative. It's the color of anger. And for some reason, which I never ever heard that in my life until this was my junior year, for some reason, there are students out there who are apparently being sensitive to it. And then I said to myself, okay, who are these students? Where are these students? In my time in school, I had never ever heard of them. But maybe I went to a school district where most students simply do not give a fuck about work. So they really don't care about seeing red in their paper. And hi, John. But I just thought it was strange that we're going out of our way to establish that red ink, a color used traditionally for making corrections, editing papers, grading them, and whatnot, is now all of a sudden being demonized for reasons that I failed to comprehend. And then I linked an article in the description that cited an example. And it was pretty much a fourth grade girl wrote a paper, some assignment, and then when she got it back, looked into by the teacher, he or she made a ton of corrections, added some comments, and pretty much rewrote the entire paper to into the version that would have been more acceptable, more as a passing grade. And then we had someone trying to defend the student saying that, okay, first of all, it's offensive that you make comments about the assignment. It's offensive that you use red ink to write over this person's paper and rewrite their work. And on top of that, you choose a color that represents anger. And in addition, that's just not the way to give constructive criticism. And to that, I said, I have a memory of one time I wrote a paragraph that the teacher said it was pretty good, but she said that longer citations, like the one that I was writing, needed to be longer. This teacher made a habit of using blue ink. It was like a sky blue type of color. And I always thought it was pretty because it's like a liquid pen that, it to me it always writes very pretty, but I never thought about it until the end of the semester. I'm like, oh, Mrs. So and so doesn't use red pens. I wonder what that is. So I wish that I could ask her what that was about because maybe she'll say that she used blue ink instead of red for reasons like this. But I just think it's strange that we live in a time where even the color with which you grade papers is being criticized or something. And then um, apparently there was more red in this fourth grader's paper than there was their own handwriting, like pencil or black ink, whatever they used to write the assignment. And then that's a problem for whatever reason. And then the person who was defending the student in this article says that red is negative because it signals danger. It's like the red in a fire. Seeing red describes anger. And I'm thinking, no, you need to understand that when you're in an educational setting, the teacher is not mad at you. Teachers do not get mad at students like that unless you are being rude and having an attitude in class. But I think it's crazy that you're sitting there taking the time to say that them grading something in red ink is really going to be detrimental to a student's education. In my years being in school, when I saw red, that to me highlighted stuff that is important for me to look into. And my mistakes. If I see something graded in blue or purple, I'm not as likely to look over it, and I don't sense urgency in that. So I may completely have let my errors fly over my head, and I would not have seen them as soon as possible to where I can learn what my mistakes were. I always chose red ink when I would do peer reviews. So nobody ever told me anything. So these problems are problems that you are creating and are in your head. And if these are legitimately things that students are saying that it bothers them to have red ink, then we cannot simply alter decades of a way something has been done just to please a very few number of people, because I am pretty sure that this is not a universal problem. Let me sip on my tea. Let me see, what time is it? Too many people in society are addicted to outrage. They look for a reason to be offended. Exactly. How do you have time to be offended like that? Do you think these developed nations could have become what they became had it been for people who are constantly just crying and whining and not just get over yourself? Not everything is going to go your way, and that's okay, but you're a very small number. We cannot allow for such a minute number to impact the way society goes. I would rather be insulted in blue ink than red. Yeah, yeah, isn't that stupid? It's like you are still going to get the same kind of feedback. But you cannot sit there and tell me that a color really alters your perception like that. I know that there is some psychology behind it, like say red is associated with hunger as well. So that's why many fast food restaurants they know this, so they have red in their logos and whatnot. But when it comes to writing and being critiqued, no. To me, red is a good color because it shows urgency and it stands out. Like, what I mean by urgency is, wow, I made a mistake. Let me tune my attention to it so that I can mend it as quickly as possible. You know, to me, anything that I saw in red, to me, it said, you know what? It's a mistake. Let me not repeat it. So, red just really stood out in my mind. It was like highlighted, like a photographic memory. I remember my teacher's feedback on this. It was in red, so that aids my memory, if anything. But I just think it's crazy that people are trying to say that that the color red is the reason why students are possibly not learning as well as they could be. This lady also suggested that you allow the students to choose the colors for corrections, like blue or purple. I'm like, I don't need no teacher to be coming up to me and be like, "Hey Zam, do you want your paper to be graded in blue or purple?" And I'm like, red or orange or yellow, but probably not yellow because in against a white background it may fade a little bit, especially if you have like a bright light above you. But this is what we're coming to, guys. It's like you have to consult even what color you're going to use to correct a student's work. You know, that's ridiculous. That is absurd. We don't have time for that. We have other things to worry about when we're in school. And then in the end the lady was like, in order to like cultivate learning, we need to create a safe environment for learning, for that is the way to go. And I am thinking, okay, how much safer of an environment can school be? They banned the physical punishment as a way to discipline decades ago. So, you know, this is all I have to say is students need to learn to experience hardships. There's going to be people who are going to critique you in a very sweet, kind, polite way. There are people who are going to absolutely find what you say repulsive and detest it and criticize you harshly and all that. Develop some guts, develop some courage. You need to be prepared for when you go out into the real world and you encounter people who are not going to be sweet to you. The world is not going to be asking you, hey, which tone of voice should I use to talk to you so that you're not triggered, offended, or no, nobody, absolutely nobody in the adult world treats you like that. So you cannot be feeling offended at everything. You need to be able to handle differences and uncomfortable situations. If the color red really triggers you like that, just learn to deal with it because you are a small minority. That's one thing. You cannot expect for the world to just change to make it more survivable and suitable for you. It doesn't work that way. So, anyways, that's the note on the red ink. And then another article that I linked was about capital letters. And there is this university in the UK called Leeds Trinity University. And apparently, their journalism department sent out a memo saying that you should refrain from using capital letters. And then I thought, oh boy, I cannot wait to dive into this one. So, the title of the article pretty much goes lecturers are told to not use capital letters to avoid upsetting students because it might be detrimental to learning. Instead, you should opt for using a friendly tone and avoid a negative language. This is a university, all right? This is supposed to be the institution that finalizes your polishing to get out into the real world. And we are taking the time to criticize capital letters. In addition, it says any lack of clarity can generate anxiety and even discourage students from attempting the assessment at all. And I'm like, okay, on the note of clarity, I have had teachers who did not know how to give very clear directions, so it would give me anxiety. But you know what I would do when I didn't have something clear to me? I would ask questions. I would go to the teacher and be like, Madam, sir, what does this mean? What are you looking for? Could you further explain to me what your expectations are? And that way I could go about my life and get the assignment done. Sometimes the teachers make mistakes and they may phrase something a little funny, something that may be open to multiple interpretations, just like I have mentioned a few times in here about how I may understand one thing, you may understand it another way. We're both correct, but clearly the person sending the message intends only one of our ways. So that is what I would expect clarifying something would do. It leaves no room for doubt. But how is it that capital letters play a part in this? It simply does not make any sense to me at all. To me, capital letters, it's like the red ink part. It gives it urgency, it makes it important, makes it stand out. So therefore, I am going to take the assignment very seriously. It gives it a degree of importance that you simply cannot miss or dismiss. And I like to have that tone on papers, if you ask me, because sometimes if you write something in a very passive way, people may not take it seriously. And when you don't take something seriously, you don't realize how important something is. So if you're using capital letters, to me, that is like, okay, this person means business. This person plays no games. I better get the assignment done the way it's highlighted in here, or else I'm not going to make it. So a lecturer says that the capital letters were necessary for telling students important parts. And I'm like, okay, that's excellent. The important parts of anything need to be highlighted. Anytime that you get a notice, say the apartment complex, sometimes they send us notices talking about, so we are going to have pest control come into your apartment and do stuff at 9 a.m. They write that stuff in caps. They say, make sure that your pets are, I don't know, what is it? taken care of, make sure that they're not going to attack the maintenance people or whatever. And other times it is we are going to be at your apartment complex installing new lights, new shower heads or something. Make sure that if you are there that the screen door is unlocked and that you are awake at 10 a.m. so that we can get this job done. Stuff like that. Do you think I get offended by all of that being in all caps? No. It lets me know I am an adult who's busy. I have a lot of stuff in my mind. So seeing those capital letters, they sound echoey in my brain. Like, okay, I read this notice. There is no excuse for me to not be prepared on this day for these people to come into my apartment and install the shower heads. But if they wrote it in like normal caps, like the first letter is what's capitalized and the rest are lowercase, there is no way that I would remember how urgent that matter was. So if you want to talk about psychology, that's the way I interpret notices being written in all caps. And then the when the lecturer said that caps were necessary for highlighting for students the important parts of an assessment, the journalism department said, "We are not doing our students any favors with this kind of nonsense." They consider that you using capital letters to emphasize important parts of your assignments that may signify or make the difference between someone passing and someone failing, because there's going to be a student that says, "Oh, Mr., Mrs., whomever, you did not say that. You did not make it clear. I was unaware that that was part of the assignment," etc., etc. And then the teacher can go, "No, no, 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 no. I wrote it in big, bold letters. There is no excuse. It is written. There is evidence that it was expressed. If you did not decide to come to me and clarify that you were not understanding the requirements, that's your fault." And I think that is okay. It is okay to make the student responsible for their own success. But you're sitting here trying to say that the bigger problem, the real problem, is that the teachers are using all caps to highlight important parts. That makes no sense to me. You need to make the student responsible. You are going to hear people using good tones, positive tones, rough tones, etc. You need to be all right with that. You need to be able to take it. And then they got on Twitter, like the university went on Twitter and they said that they have not banned capital letters like the article was suggesting, that it's simply being discouraged and in place. They're saying to the lecturers that they should just make sure that they're clear with what it is that they are looking for. And I'm like, why does it matter what format the clarity is? As long as the instructions are there and they're not in a foreign language, unless that's a foreign language course, I don't see how that can be confusing. I just don't. Like I said earlier, sometimes there are teachers that may phrase instructions a little funny. And if you're a responsible, serious student, what you do is you go up to them and you ask them for further clarification. That's it. That's what I did in my time as a student. And guess what? I passed. I did not have to be college level for that. I did not have to be like, "Mr., Mrs., whomever, you used capital letters, so therefore I am not understanding the assignment because I'm triggered by your format." No, no, never. The only time that happened was when, again, there was a teacher who may not really have been originally a teacher. They were new to the profession, or they simply were not very good with words, and they were not language arts teacher. So it's all right. Some teachers are human, and the human factor gets in the way. And because they are being humans, they make mistakes. And their way of expressing may not really resonate with the rest of us. That's all right. But to suggest that this is discouraging students and being detrimental for their learning and all that, I think you're exaggerating. And I think you trying to defend the students and being like, you need to create a safer space more than what they already have, which is a shit ton of pampering. I think you are the problem, because you are setting up the students for failure in the future, emotional issues that they will not be able to cope with when they go out into the real world and they see that nobody is going to be as friendly to them as the four walls of university and high school safety or public school safety that school grants inherently. So I don't know, you guys, like always, that's just my opinion. Maybe you guys will see something that I don't, that may be shine some light on this and be like, well, Zam, you completely missed the point. You let it fly over your head. They're trying to, this is important. The students can really be affected by that. Just because decades ago it was effective doesn't mean that the technique cannot be improved on. And I'm like, well, for me, I benefited a lot from seeing a lot of red during the course of my school years. And I never ever felt offended by it in any way whatsoever. If anything, I was grateful that my teachers were taking the time to submit corrections for me to review, because when I went to school, I had one objective, and that was to do my work, take it seriously, learn, make most of my time in there. So there was no way that I could have been triggered by seeing a simple, stupid color red, which to me is a very good pick for highlighting stuff that's being changed and highlighted and all that good stuff. Love your videos. Must be sensitive students. Well, I appreciate your comments of you enjoy my videos. And yeah, absolutely. I just want to know why this new generation of student or younger students, how did we get to this? How did we become so sensitive and triggered and all that? Everything has a source. And of course, we can tell that the source is pretty much political, but we're not really going to get into that today since I'm a little short on time. But I'm just saying that if this becomes the norm, that should be alarming for everybody, especially every parent out there, that the way that you perceived school as aiding you to developing in a more cognitive way, like, you're learning stuff, you go to school to learn and everything, it is being suggested now that the way that you learned was actually detrimental to your health and you were absolutely unaware of it, and now we got to make you aware of it because we're getting ready to change the way your child learns. And I'm like, no, a lot of stuff I wish that I would have been born during my mom's time so that I could benefit from school actually teaching important things, actual useful skills. But, anyways, you guys, I guess I should save that for another time so we can really expand on why I feel like I would have been better educated had I been a kid from maybe the 70s or something. But anyways, or a kid going to school in the 70s and stuff. Anyway, I'll think about it and then put my thoughts together and come back to it. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in, and I will see you soon.